And your weapon of choice is the Greatsword, right?
Well, it's the greatest sword.
What do you mean?
I am using it.
So it's a different weapon?
Only because I am the one wielding it.
Alright, then what is your strongest attack?
Truer Charge Slash.
Do you mean True Charge Slash?
Well, now it's Truest Charge Slash.
But
Do not question me.
ladies, gentlemen, and monsters of all ages in Monster Hunter, there are a few things that capture our hearts more than our own hunting tools, the weapons, and we each have our own preferences when it comes to those weapons, small and fast, big and slow, ranged, or even shielded. There are various styles of gameplay available within the game, but one thing that everyone can enjoy no matter what you play is your main weapon hitting the biggest number it can hit, and today is all about how you can do that. What method, what attack reaches the highest singular damage number with each weapon. I'm not talking about adding up a bunch of small numbers for a combo or a bunch of numbers from a split attack. I mean the single large number that you can make and how to achieve it. For dual blades, it's not a combination of a ton of small hits. We're talking about one massive pop, and it will be the same for every other weapon.
That's all we want. We all want the big one.
So with that description out of the way, let's go through each weapon one at a time in smithy order. For Greatsword, this one is quite obvious. Some of them will be a bit more interesting, but Greatsword is quite simply a true charge slash that happens after countering with Strong Arm Stance. Strong Arm Stance gives the following attack a 35% damage boost, and so it is significantly stronger than any other way to do true charge slashed, and so this is without question the big one. It hits for thousands of damage, and there's not really anything that even comes close to this for this weapon. Second up then we have Longsword, and this is another simple one thanks to a change in Sunbreak, the Sacred Sheath mode. This mode lets you sheath your weapon and charge it up depending on what level your spirit gauge was. At red gauge you can charge this twice, which spends your levels, and then unleash a 3-hit combo. The third hit of this combo is the largest singular number that a longsword can produce, even larger than Serene Pose, and this makes a lot of sense given that it consumes all of your spirit gauge level to even be able to do this attack in the first place. Even though it's part of a combo, that third hit is the one that does the vast majority of the damage, which is more than anything else that a longsword can do with this singular number. Then we have Sword and Shield. This one will be obvious to anyone who mains the weapon, as it is based around something often understood to be the strongest move the weapon currently has, Metsu Shoryu Geki. This Silkbind is a counter, and if you successfully counter with it, you get 3 big extra pops of damage at the start of the attack, the first pop of extra damage being the biggest singular number that the weapon can create here. Bigger than Spinning Reaper, bigger than any individual hit of Perfect Rush, and bigger than the Falling Bash hits as well, and all you have to do is successfully spend 2 wire bugs and hit a counter timing correctly. That said, that is where a pattern is going to start developing. For many of these weapons, the highest number is achieved with something that has a high cost. At least aside from the weapons that are known for many hits, for those it gets a little bit more interesting. Like dual blades, for example. You may think that this is something like the last hit of Demon Flurry combo, but no, it's actually much simpler than that. The Silkbind, Piercing Bind. You stick this at an enemy, and then after a few seconds, it will explode for a big pop of damage relative to the number of times you hit the monster after placing it. This can easily hit upwards of 600 damage, and given that this is dual blades we're talking about, there isn't another singular damage number pop that comes anywhere close to this. It's Piercing Bind all the way, no question about it. Fifth up, we start with the more capable guarding weapons, including Lance. This one is interesting for multiple reasons, one of which being it is most known for just repetitive small amounts of damage relentlessly stabbing the monster rather than singular large pops, and for the most part, even its larger attacks are split up into multiple damage numbers. It now has a charged wide sweep, which does a lot of damage but still doesn't quite match up to the damage of Spiral Thrust. The counter Silkbind from base Rise that counters an incoming attack, gives you a very short-term attack buff, and launches you forward with a massive thrust, the final attack of which deals the highest amount of damage that Lance can achieve in one single damage number. After that comes Gunlance, which is another interesting one for a similar reason to Lance. The main ways that this weapon deals damage is shelling, and technically the strongest attack, the one that adds up to the most damage, is actually Bullet Barrage. But that isn't the single largest number that it can make, as that attack is actually made up of about 7 different numbers or more between your weapon's shells, Wyvern Fire, and either Wormstake or Erupting Cannon going off as well. In any case, the crown for highest singular damage number actually comes from a melee attack, being your wide sweep attack. A close second is the weapon hit of Ground Splitter Slash, which is quite fun considering this is a Silkbind used to increase the damage of shelling for a short period after, but the actual strongest one by just a few points of damage is the wide sweep, as I mentioned, the final hit of the proper melee combo for the weapon where you can unload all of your shells. On top of this, you can make this even stronger by using Erupting Cannon beforehand, which just boosts your melee damage in general. 7th up today is the Hammer, and this is a fun one as well. It's long been understood that the most damage you can get from one input is actually Impact Crater for the cost of 2 wire bugs, but that attack is split up into multiple hits of damage, and so it isn't actually the winner on this specific category. The big charged attack finisher in Strength mode does a lot of damage as well in one hit, but it still is not quite the highest damage hit that Hammer can do. No, instead that title belongs to an attack that is rarely used in Rise, but was a big fixture of the weapon back in World and Iceborne, the Big Bang Combo Finisher, an attack that comes at the end of a 5-hit combo where you have to hit the monster with every single hit to continue the combo, and that final hit does the single highest damage number that a hammer hit can achieve in Sunbreak. After that, we come to Hunting Horn. This weapon used to have more potential answers to this question in base Rise, but it has become extremely simple in Sunbreak, with the addition of a silkbind called Sonic Bloom. This is an egg that you lay on the floor, which then explodes after you've played 3 melodies. Nothing else compares to the damage of this attack in a singular number, and it has some interesting properties too. It is only affected by raw attack and sharpness, nothing else, and while it is technically only popped by playing 3 melodies, it can also be instantly popped with a Magnificent Trio as a combo, which counts as 3 melodies, or even with the Infernal Melody Echo Spin attack, which is just 1 melody but pops it anyways, and then it pops it off with the damage boost 2 of that song. Interestingly enough, while this attack ignores hit zones, it can also even take advantage of the sneak attack skill when the egg is behind the monster, adding up to an even higher singular pop of damage.
Just keeps growing.
Then we come to Switch Axe, which at first may seem like it would have a unique answer to this question, but it is one that actually makes a lot of sense and is somewhat expectable. Quite simply, the final pop of zero-sum discharge that happens after you've mashed the button for a number of seconds. Soaring Wyvern does a lot of damage too, and so does something like Compressed Element Discharge, but neither of these, nor any other singular pop of damage that Switch Axe can create, matches up to the damage of the zero-sum discharge finisher. After that, we come to the Charge Blade, which again is quite a fun one. There are a few ways to augment the damage of different Charge Blade abilities, but only one of them actually helps this specific attack, which is the down slam of the axe at the start of Super Amped Element Discharge. Specifically, the way to make this the strongest attack by far is with the Axe Hopper Silkbind, which shoves you into the air before you do it, increasing the melee hit damage specifically and making it hit for over 1,000 without a problem, even in an elementally focused build. Then we come to Insect Glaive, and this one is relatively simple if you've kept up with the new changes to this weapon in Sunbreak. Not a new switch skill by any means, but a new basic move added through the Powder Kinsect options, known as Powder Vortex. With this, you suck up any powder that is sitting around the area into one big pop explosion that happens in a singular burst. And if you do this with a Blast Powder Kinsect, then it will result often in a number that can reach 4 digits, easily outclassing any other Insect Glaive attack when it comes to a singular damage number. After that, we finally reach the proper ranged weapons, and things start to get a bit interesting again. You may think that for light bowgun it is some type of specific ammo that makes this happen, but instead it is simply Silkbind Glide. This Silkbind pulls you up close to a monster and then unleashes a powerful single shot. The shot can hit for over 400 quite easily, and put simply, no other singular damage number from this weapon can reach the same numbers that this does. And so if you are trying to whip out a light bowgun and do one big pop of damage, this is your answer. As for the heavy bowgun counterpart, your answer here is actually also a Silkbind, but this time it is the Counter Silkbind. If you use this counter to block an attack, you can then retaliate with a charged shot that reaches 4 digits, which, as you can imagine, is again higher than anything else the weapon is capable of in one pop of damage. A lot of these come down to Silkbinds, which makes quite a lot of sense considering that these Silkbinds were generally out of the game to give certain weapons a little bit more climactic moments, and they seem to have done so. Then finally today, the last weapon of the bunch is the bow, and the answer to this question will definitely surprise you here. Something that comes close to doing it is Dragon Piercer, which can wreak quite meaty ticks of damage, with each number it does coming close to our actual crowned victor here, which is hilariously a melee attack on the bow. Not just any melee attack though, but the melee attack that comes from the aerial shot Silkbind, throwing you up in the air for some high damage bow hits, but also you can instead do a falling melee attack which has an incredibly high motion value and surprisingly hits for the highest single number that a bow can do. It makes some sense, of course, when you consider that every single other attack the bow does is split into multiple numbers, but still it's quite fun to see that the biggest actual singular number that this ranged weapon has doesn't even come from a ranged attack. And that is it, everyone, the singular strongest number each weapon in Sunbreak is capable of reaching. Not a culmination of a combo, not the strongest thing that you can spam, but quite simply the route to reaching the highest singular damage number popping up on your screen for all 14 weapons in the game. I thought this was a bit of a fun thing to go over. For some weapons it was pretty simple, but for others like bow, it's just sort of really funny to me to actually see that in action. All in all, I hope you enjoyed this experience, and make sure to let me know if there's anything else that you'd like to see in the future. Like if you like the video, subscribe with the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.